we have a batch at on the western side of Lake Taupo. So we used to just go hiking all the time. So I actually did the crossing about 25 times before I even became a guide. Yeah, it's what we do every summer. It's our summer hike.
Welcome to the She Adventures New Zealand podcast, a space to find inspiration from the outdoors and life through candid conversations with women doing rad stuff outdoors across New Zealand. Here, we talk with everyday women adventuring. We unpack their stories on why they adventure, their triumphs, challenges, and discoveries about themselves. There's banter, tips and ideas, deep diving and insights as we talk about their stories of adventures around New Zealand. My hope is this podcast, the stories and the conversations, spark something within you and inspire you to get outdoors and to fill your happy tank with the things that matter, because life is better when you do. Hi, I'm Senka Radonich, creator and host of the She Adventures New Zealand podcast. And today's guest is Rose Lockyer. This amazing wahine is a mountain guide on the Tongariro Alpine Crossing and is passionate about Wim Hof, his methods with breathwork and cold immersion swimming. She loves pushing her body to its limits, experiencing new adventures, and exploring more of our beautiful country we're blessed to live in. In this conversation, we talk about how she found herself as a guide on the Tongariro crossing. We even worked out how many crossings she's done, and you would not believe it. We chat about some of the amazing adventures she's done over the years, like walking 80 kilometers around the mountain track solo in one go, a challenge that took her 22 hours and 30 minutes. We talk about what inspired her to try Wim Hof methods and how she uses them in her daily life. We dive into talking about resilience and mindset when we're faced with setbacks, challenges, and injury. And of course, we talk about so much more. Get ready for this candid and inspiring conversation. Hit the subscribe button and enjoy. And here's to getting more women outdoors. So welcome to the She Adventures New Zealand podcast, Laura.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited to talk all things adventures with you.
Definitely, I am excited too.
Yeah, I was trying to think before we got on the call how long ago it was that we met on our first crossing.
Oh, I'm thinking, was it 20? It must have been 2020, or was it 2019? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I want to say it's been a good sort of 4 or 5 years, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I was so excited. When this is back in the day when I used to have adventure girls based out in New Zealand, I was lucky enough to meet Laura, who did our guide for us across the Tongariro crossing. And there's nothing more inspiring than having another strong wahine who take us up and over such a beautiful part of New Zealand and just fill us with lots of inspiration and make us all feel really safe and confident in doing the crossing. So, and then ever since then, I've been following Laura, and we just love seeing the pictures that you post of all the crossings that you do.
Yeah, I love taking the photos and just sharing the views and trying to motivate people as well to get up there, especially with the snow. Now that we're getting into the snow, so yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so we've just crossed over to the new season, haven't we now?
Yeah, it's still it's still coming into winter, but we've had a few good jumps and we're hoping to have some more snow.
Yes, I think it's on my actual bucket list to go and do a crossing in the snow with you guys. So it's been sitting on the list for a while because I haven't quite done as many as you, but I think I've done the crossing about sort of 4 times now. So, and every time I go, it's never the same. So
yeah, that's what I love about it. It's so diverse.
So what got you into the outdoors? I guess you've been a guide in the past. So tell us a little bit how you ended up getting inspired into the outdoors.
So my family were a big lover of the outdoors. My parents, when I was a little baby, I was born in Napier, and we stayed 3 months in Napier, and then we went and lived over in the Cook Islands. So from a very young age, my mum and dad and my sister and I, we've been submerged into nature. So either snorkeling or hiking, in Rarotonga and on Niue Island. And then when we came back to
Yes.
New Zealand, we have a holiday, a batch at on the western side of Lake Taupo. So we used to just go hiking all the time. So I actually did the crossing about 25 times before I even became a guide. Yeah, it's what we do every summer. It's our summer hike. The first time I did it, I was 10, so yeah.
I was just going to ask, so what's your earliest memory of doing the track?
Yeah, I was 10 and I had this tiny little backpack, and I remember I had a little teddy bear and I was in charge of the lollies, and I had a little tiny pump bottle, and then my dad, he obviously had a big backpack and he had all the safety stuff in it. And I remember it took us about 10 hours because it was just a really slow journey, but it wasn't, it was, the whole point was the journey, right? So obviously the destination's important, but what's important is making the journey and to have a good time. And yeah, so that's what we did as a family.
And how funny that you're still in charge of the snacks these days, eh?
Yeah, I love eating. It's important. It's very important.
I know. I've been always laughing. Yeah, I always end up talking to the ladies and we're always like, half of it is about the food we get to take on these trails.
Big time. And you burn about 5,000 calories, so you can eat unlimited, whatever you want after the hike.
Wow.
It's great.
Yeah.
Good fitness. No gym workout.
Sandwiches. Yeah, sandwiches galore. So what led you to, how did you end up becoming a guide? So you sounds like you've had a massively adventurous background with living near Taupo and then being able to do the crossing that many times. What inspired you to move into that? Because you've actually got a diploma in classical dance, if I saw my information right. Yep, I was like, I just learned something with me.
So it's my sister that got me into guiding. At the time, I was in Australia doing full-time ballet for my diploma of dance, and I came over for my 21st to go skiing in Queenstown. And my sister, she had a gap from she'd gone to university, got a degree, and then she had a little bit of a gap, and she decided to go and guide on the route burn for Ultima hikes. So I went down and I saw how happy she was, and the people were really lovely, and just the photos, and I'm like, I have to do that. And so I'm very thankful and very grateful that she got me into it. And yeah, I just decided she did 2 seasons, and then I decided, right, I want to become a guide, and I filled out all the forms, and the interview was pretty much, your bridie sister, has she taught you, what has she taught you? And she taught me everything, even how to cook the meals, how to speak the Japanese we needed to speak. So I got hired on the spot. Yeah. And that's how I started that journey.
What an amazing journey. Like, the route burn was my first overnight hike that I ever did. So it's got a little special place in my heart.
I was very young. I was 22 when I had my first guiding job. So yeah, very young. Then I went to America and taught hiking and campcraft to children over there. And and then I had a bit of a break because I had an accident. I hurt myself in America playing indoor soccer. An injury. So I had to recover. And then I got into mountain guiding on the crossing in 2015.
Wow. So how many crossings because I'm dying to know, how many crossings do you think you've done since becoming a guide? So you've got your 20 odd crossings prior to becoming a guide.
That's a tricky, I was having this conversation with one of my clients the other day, and that was actually quite a tricky question because, so I worked for Adrift 2 different times. I started with them in 2015. Then I had a bit of a gap, and then I went back there, and then I started with Adventure Outdoors. So I'm thinking I would have been doing about 6 seasons and I was ranging when we were busy, we might do like 5 trips in a week, and then if we're quiet, we might do 2 or 3. And there were times when you kind of would have a bit of a gap, and you would, so I actually don't know how many I've done, but we were kind of averaging out that it must have been over 1,000. That's what I'm guessing.
Jeepers! Yeah. And for anyone who's listening to this and they haven't quite looked up the Tongariro crossing, do you want to tell people that what's the distance of the Tongariro crossing to start with, or Alpine crossing, I should say Alpine, because they did change that name specifically for that reason?
Yes. So all the signposts actually say it's 19.4 kilometers, but when you actually track it, it's actually 21. And there's been a few changes over the years. One of the main ones was the Devil's Staircase was altered, and then coming down from Kiritahi, where the old hut used to be. So there's been a few changes. So it's actually technically 21 kilometers now. So half a marathon.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a pretty solid day.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, because when you think about the increments, say like on the Milford track or the route burn, because it's a cumulative hike, you end up doing less kilometers each day. So it's actually a little bit easier. Whereas with the crossing, when you're doing that multiple times, it is quite challenging on the body, but you get used to it and you love it. So you keep doing. Yeah.
And I saw too that I followed a few of the cool adventures that you did over the years as well. Once we connected up through you being our guide, because you challenged yourself to quite a few amazing things, which I guess, given that's your backdrop and your doorstep, that there's not just the Tongariro crossing itself, just the one day, but there's so much more to do around that area.
Yes, I'm very lucky. I love the Tongariro National Park. There's so many great hikes to do. I love like Mt Ruapehu. It's a really lovely challenge as well. I prefer hiking Ruapehu in the winter, because you just pop, your crampons on, ice axe, good to go. Whereas in the summer, it is quite crumbly. So it's actually easier to hike in the winter. But no, we're very lucky. We've got lots of day hikes and also multi-day hikes, but I do them as well. Pre-knee surgery, I would do them all in one go.
Yeah.
I'm crazy a little bit.
You really do like to push the challenge your body to really see where it goes. Yeah,
I love that.
What makes you love that so much?
I've got a very strong resilience, and I've had it my whole life. I think a big part of that was I started dancing when I was 10, and I've always been very, I'm a Virgo. I'm very much into, I like structure, and I am very competitive as well. And yeah, so as I'm getting older, I'm now realizing that, you don't have to, it doesn't really matter so much time per se. It's more, that's something I've learned in my late 30s, which a lot of that actually came from my knee injury, that I've learned to be a little bit more softer on myself in a way. But yeah, so I do have a competitive nature. And I do love seeing what my body is capable of doing. But a lot of it is the mind. It's how strong your mind is. The mind is your strongest muscle in your body.
So talk to me about that, because you recently got into doing some of the Wim Hof. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, do you want to tell people what that is? And then I would love to know how you got into that, because I just watched your latest photo with the temperatures that you were in and the time that you were, and I was like, she's a bloody legend.
So the Wim Hof method, it's so Wim Hof, he is a Dutchman, and when he was about 18 or 19, he was in Holland, and he came across this frozen lake, and he had this desire to to bathe in the water. And he realized when he went into the water that he breathed really deeply, and all his worries, his anxiety, his depression, everything disappeared. And then he started diving into why the cold, how the cold affects the body, and it's as you get into like a meditative state. So before, over the years, he was studying different modalities, from fasting to intermittent fasting to plant-based. There's a whole big area. I don't do plant-based. I do the odd fast, because I'm interested in that kind of stuff as well, for health reasons. But yeah, so he started this method. He mushed them all together, all the modalities, which is a cold immersion, which with the mindset and the breath work. So before you do a session, you do his breath work, and then you do an exercise called the horse stance, which is like Tai Chi, and it warms up your body, and then you get in the water. And I've been doing it, when did I start? It would have been over 3 years now. So I'm on, I've done 3 years anniversary. And it was right on that lovely, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, time, the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of COVID-y areas. And at the time, I really felt I needed some kind of structure, because I was feeling like everything, there was a lot of uncertainty. And I thought now's a good time. And I just decided one day, right, I'm going to start it. And I downloaded it as a map. And the first cold shower I did, I screamed so loud that my husband Ted came, because at that point we'd just been married. He said I went crazy after we got married. Starting the winter. I'm like, love, I've always been crazy. and he came running into the bathroom because I was screaming so loud. And I only did 5 seconds. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, oh, it's awful. It's so cold. And then after that, about the next day was easier. And I was supposed to do 15 seconds the first time. And then was about a week. I then just like, oh, I'm going to jump in the river. And the rest is history. Yeah.
Wow. What have you found for yourself? Like, what has kept you going back? So what have you found that are the benefits for you?
So there are some days that are tough, right? So people forget that, because you end up loving the cold, and they do forget that you still do feel cold. So it's about being gentle with yourself when you are going through, particularly as a woman, hormones and that you do feel more cold at certain times of your cycle. The main thing for me is when I'm having those days when I think, oh, do I really want to get in? It's a bit chilly. Like, for example, today was air temperature 6 degrees with 3.2 degree water temperature in town. So it's not up the mountain, it's just in town. And I thought, oh, I'll just do a 6-minute swim, just a short one, right on dusk.
Yeah.
And, and what gets me in the water is I healed myself. I've got an autoimmune disease that they did fix me with surgery, but I was going to have long-lasting chest spasms because I have something called achalasia. And the surgeon had prescribed me medication that I was going to have for the rest of my life. Surgery was 11 years ago. And I actually, with the Wim Hof method, managed safely with my doctor, managed to come off my medication. So
that's
amazing. Yeah. So he has been, his method has been, thank you. His method has been known it helps with autoimmune disorders. So that's a big one for me, it helped with that. And then I've noticed my life force, like my energy is better. My skin's better. My hair is healthier. I am less anxious. I'm enjoying life more. Yeah, there's so many benefits, and you connect with beautiful people, because there are people out there who want to do it too. Yeah, so it's great.
Yeah.
We're very lucky. And the best thing is, in summer, the river's always packed full of people. In winter, there's no one there. So you have the whole place to yourself. So it's great.
I love the op shots. That's
Mm.
amazing. I have only done we did a session for a work that I was that I'm with, and we did ice bathing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think we did 3 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
So yeah, it was, and that was intense. It was, I think, yeah, I just had to really calm myself because there were a few people getting a bit anxious getting in about
Mm.
being in there, and I just had to really just for myself getting in that time because I hadn't done
Yeah,
anything. You know, I'll go river swimming, we go hiking, and there's a nice glacial river I'd love to jump in. Me and the girls sometimes we go do our little nudie dips and stuff, you
yeah.
know. So because you can, because you're with the ladies, and
Yes.
yeah, but that was the first time you sort of really mindfully chose to get into a really in my mind super cold situation. So
Yes.
yeah, I found I really had to kind of just bring myself into myself and not focus on anyone else and what they were going through, and at the same time, because three of us all got into a pool at
Yeah.
a time, like together collectively. So I just
Mm.
had to like fully just listen to what the guy had said and just do that thing, because it was like otherwise
Mm.
I had someone else who was panicking, and it was
Yeah.
like I was like, okay, and I could feel my heart jumping with theirs, and then I was like, okay, just breathe into it, and yeah,
That's it. You've got
it
to
was a
embrace it.
pretty incredible experience. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was no avoiding getting cold.
You just got to embrace the cold. And it's all like how you breathe and calming your breath so that when you're in the water, you don't do his breathing method in the water. You just have regulated breathing. But yeah, and then you just calm yourself. And everything's still. You can't think of the past, you
Mm.
can't think of the future. You're very present. And it's like meditation.
Mm.
Mm. It's very
I love
powerful.
that. Just yeah, or just in talking to you about it, like I can, sort of, you picture yourself not necessarily if feeling the cold, but just sitting in a space where you're having to be really present and mindful. And even
Yeah.
just in this conversation, I can feel myself dropping into that sort of feeling of like,
Mm.
oh, yeah,
That's a
it's a
good
beautiful
tip.
space to be in.
If you need to do
Yeah.
it, there's a good tip. So what my tip is that what you're wanting to do is you want to breathe in through your nose, and then when you're getting in the water, like calmly, don't jump in. I mean, some people do, but that's not my cup
Yeah.
of tea. I just get in calmly. So breathe in through
Yeah.
your nose and then breathe out through your mouth. And as you're breathing out, that's when you lower into the water calmly, and then slowly
No.
in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then it's the rest is history. That's a
Oh.
little technique I do. And another technique is pop your palms of your hands onto your legs and then feel that heat that is regulating in between your hands, the palms, and your leg, and just think about that heat. And then your brain actually, you can trick your brain because you're just focusing on that
Mm.
little pocket of heat, and then you feel warm.
Mm.
Yeah, so there's little tricks of the trade that you can do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how do you use a lot of that in what you do with a lot of those are long days going across the crossing,
Mm-hmm.
but you've not just done that, you've also done big events. You've done the Northern Circuit, which is 58 Ks. You've done a double crossing, there's lots of other things. How do you use what you get out of the Wim Hof to help you through those challenging moments?
Yeah, so a lot of it has three pillars. One of the main pillars is the mindset, which is all like the resilience. So for example, when I did Oxfam, which is a 100K walk, I actually did his breath work as I was starting to feel fatigued as I was walking. And I didn't go as deep as I would say lying or sitting down because of obviously for safety reasons. But just to be breathing through with his technique, and I actually found that very helpful as well. But a lot of it it's all mindset. So basically you know, in life, you're going to be feeling pain when you're doing a big adventure. You might feel pain, you might not. But when you're doing long distance, the main thing is not really the physical pain, it's more the mindset. So I always make sure what I'm speaking to myself in my mind, I'm always feeding myself positive mindset. I never think about like what ifs. I'm always thinking, you can do this, you're strong, you're powerful, you're capable, you're doing a good job. Like I'm feeding myself positive information. And yeah. And then I plan you know, so like I'll plan around my trip. So I'll make sure that I'll go via when the chateau was operating, and I'll go and have soy latte or something like that. Like I'm a smart hiker. If I can, obviously, if I can, you know, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. It's a topic that you know, I think more of late that the whole ice bath plunging like really has become quite mainstream.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who probably sort of around your time were getting into it. So it's definitely been in my realm of things that, you know, I've been interested about. And yeah, so just to talk, to have the opportunity for someone to share their side of it, their journey, and the benefits of it, it's so awesome to hear. So
It helps with
yeah.
inflammation
And
as well. So like all of that. So, and you don't get sick. You don't get flus or anything like that. You're very healthy.
yeah.
So.
So what are some of the adventures that you think that have challenged you the most?
Good question. One of the biggest challenges I've had two of my biggest challenges. One of them was when I did a solo mission around Mt Ruapehu, which is 80 Ks, which is usually done, it's a 4-day or 4-night, 5-day hike. And I decided to start, because I was training for Oxfam at the time, and I decided to start at midnight because I wanted to get the most steps on my Fitbit. And I went solo because I couldn't get anyone else to join me at the time. So I think that was one of my biggest challenges, because it was in the dark. I was alone. I had all the safety gear, you know, first aid, EPIRB, shelter. I had everything, but it's more you were, you know, vulnerable in the dark by yourself. Yeah, so I think that would be my biggest challenge. And then my second biggest challenge would be actually when I had my ski accident in the South Island. Because I learned a lot from that. And it's been a long journey to recover. So I'm very intuitive, and I always trust my intuition and my guidance. And this particular situation, I had picked up that one of our party was getting fatigued, and I tried to encourage to have a break, and unfortunately the weather was coming in, and the group decided to keep skiing. And in my gut, it was telling me it wasn't a good idea, because I felt like it was going to potentially cause an accident. And then the next trip up the ski lift was when my accident happened. And he was fatigued, and, you know, skied into me and ended up fully rupturing my ACL, my MCL, fractured my tibia, and damaged my meniscus. Yeah. So it was a big one.
Yeah, she's a doozy.
But I did learn. Everything happens for a reason. But one thing I did learn was, no matter what, go with your instincts, and particularly in a group. I'm very good with my instincts solo, or when I'm in charge of a group. But I was swayed by the other members in the group, and deep
Mm.
down, I now know, no, I'm just going to go with my feelings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's definitely what I learned from that. And then I also learned about how to recover, to keep in,
Mm.
because that was hard on the mindset when you
Yeah.
can't walk much, and normal life is very different. So it's all about
Mm.
relearning how to walk properly, and yeah, starting from scratch again. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
It definitely humbled me.
Yeah.
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 And I like, a lot of what you're saying is amazing, because it's like, you're like, it's all the way that you look at it, it's the way that you come back from it, and it is so much, it kind of goes back to what you were saying before. It's about, what are the words that you're saying to yourself in that time? Where are you landing with being kind to yourself
Yeah.
in your time of recovery? So
Yeah. Definitely. And it's like, because not only you're feeding your body with food and health and nutrition, all of that, you're feeding your mind. So that's also including what you're reading, podcasts. So when I was in a time when I couldn't physically leave the house because I was with crutches, and we've got stairs everywhere out of our house, and you couldn't drive, and it was
yep.
those moments when it was quite lonely, but that's when, I just dived into reading books and listening to podcasts and watching. I love watching like SAS Australia, those
Yes.
I love them. It's so great. I love that
Have
stuff.
you watched
Yeah, and Survivor and
just
yeah.
for anyone who's watching this, they must be cracking up. But I have just watched that Trapped, New Zealand Trapped, where the people
Oh,
go out. That if you love the SAS, I'm going to highly recommend it,
yeah.
especially because two awesome women come in from New Zealand. They're adventure racers.
Oh, cool.
They come in and yeah, without telling you about the end and stuff, but they really, but two fully inspiring women. Just just kicking ass
Oh,
basically.
cool.
So
Yeah.
if you like that and you like inspiring stuff, put it on
Yeah.
your watch list. So if you're listening to this podcast, I can't get enough of it. And then go and follow these ladies, because they're amazing as well. Just, they're all about just inspiring more wahine to get out and do cool stuff like you and so
Cool.
it's,
I'm gonna have to look it up.
awesome.
So what's it called? Track.
Total digress.
Yeah.
But that's what this podcast is all about. It's like we're just hanging out, having a good cordial about all the adventures. So yeah. So if you're listening to this and you want to make any comments about some other great things that we can tune into, I'm sure we'd love to hear about it. So you talked a little bit. I'd love to come back to this solo walk that you did for the 80Ks, because that's huge. Like, that's a massive thing to do by yourself. What sort of things do you do to prepare yourself for that? So there's a mental component, but also like just
Physical.
in terms of physical safety, equipment, all the juicy stuff.
Yep. So so my main person that I do all my communication with is with my husband, Ted. So I have so I wrote out a whole plan on the direction where I was going, when I expected where I had to be at certain locations. I had a escape route. So I had say down Tokino ski field was an option I could get out. Also the chateau. But then basically from Tokino, you're pretty much committed at that point. So I had a big plan. I had maps. And so certain locations I would text Ted and let him know where I am, and also put the time as well. So you would say such and such a height, and then the time. So safety wise, I obviously had my EPIRB very close to me, just in case. You don't want it right at the bottom of the pack. when you're
Yeah.
solo. You want it nice and close. And then like emergency blanket, first aid kit, duct tape, a Swiss Army knife, what else? A shelter, obviously lots of food and water, torch, batteries, charging portal to charge your phone, map, compass, sunscreen just in case you need it. Yeah, and I use hiking poles as well. They're very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's mainly the physical shelter as well, warm clothing. And then have a plan, and then if you go off the plan, like change the plan, you must, text and tell them I've changed route, and so that there's no confusion. That's very important. Yeah. And and then what else? That's mainly the safety. Good hiking boots, like above your ankle. I always find that's really important, just in case if you niggle your ankle, you can pretty much walk off a little sprain, if anything like that. And I love those because I used to do long distance running as well before I hurt my knee. And I love those gels, those running gels.
Yes.
They're great.
Yep.
Yeah. And you put them in your pocket, and even the little sports jelly beans as well are really good. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Hydrolyte. That's amazing. Nice. Yeah. I always put Hydrolyte in one of my drink bottles to keep yourself, because no matter what, even though you're drinking lots of water, it's so hard to keep hydrated.
Yeah, all those electrolytes and stuff, eh?
Yeah, no, very important. And then you want to, have a good rest the night before. Training wise, so I was pretty much, guiding up on the mountain. So my base fitness was really, really good fitness. But it's all just about building your way up. It's like, say, if you wanted to go and run, sign up for half a marathon, then start with 5Ks and then just slowly build your way up. Okay. And then every week try to do a little bit more. And also work on speed as well. That's what I do, because you want to push your heart a little bit, like not dangerous, but push it a little bit. And you're wanting to, so something like a HIIT workout, or where you can accelerate and run a little bit quicker and then slow down. That's quite good as well for cardio.
Yeah.
But I never went to the gym or anything like that.
Yeah.
The mountains.
All those Ks on the. Yeah, I was going to say all the Ks on the trail, like that's. Because going from 21, that's 4 times the usual distance that you usually do. So and you wouldn't ever train. You wouldn't overtrain and be doing, 60 Ks as a trial run. You would be doing those longer days, but not certainly that. So so talk to me about like the actual, like being on the trail and the challenges that came up along the way, and how you got yourself through that.
So
I'm assuming you made it to the end.
Yes, well, I'm here. Hello. Yes, I made it safely. So there was 2 kind of areas where I found quite challenging. It was on the desert road side, and it was just because we quite a bit of the track, like say going what they call the Tussock Traverse, there was other people that I bumped into because they were doing the Tama Lakes or something like that. So it was quite nice to have some interaction, and you would chat to people and then you'd keep walking. But once I went past like that kind of Tokeno area, they also had, at the time, they had removed some of the bridges, and they had put this plank down across this river, and they double planked it, and you had to walk across the plank. Now, normally I wouldn't be fazed about walking across a plank, but not if after 60 Ks or a long, at that point I was really tired. And all I thought is, I'm going to walk this plank and I'm going to fall in and I'm going to end up down there, down the river. And I'm going to be wet and it's going to be awful. Because, obviously, you don't want to be wet when you still got kilometers to go. And luckily, there was a really lovely dock guy who was there working on the track, and he could see that I needed a little bit of help. And yeah, I actually just I took the help and I said, "Oh, I've done a big, I'm doing around the mountain in one go," and he actually just was a support to help me get across, which was really lovely. So it's all about there's teamwork as well. And then he said goodbye and off I went. So that was one of the main spots there, and also it was quite lonely around Torquino as well. And what's also hard is when the sun comes up, because your brain adjusts. It's like when you're driving in the dark and then it gets lighter, or vice versa, and you end up so that's hard as well, because you're not only getting a little bit sleepy, but you can feel a little bit lonely. But I sing to myself sometimes. If I'm feeling a bit lonely, I'll just start humming, or no one's around. I'm not a good singer, but you just hum a song or something. I do that in the river as well, and it helps.
Yeah.
When you're swimming.
Oh, that's not beautiful. And how long did that end up taking you doing that 80K solo mission?
So it was 22 and a half hours. And I started.
That's sensational.
What's that?
That's sensational. You're a champion, man.
Thank you.
Oh.
And I ended up, I started at on the Owakuni Mountain Road, around the 13-kilometer mark at Waitonga Falls car park. And I decided to just start going straight up the hill, get the worst part done first. So, yeah. Yeah, I remember ringing my husband, and I was at one of the last hut, and I had been hoping to finish in daylight, and I could tell that it was getting dark, and I had another hour to go, and I was going to have to finish in the dark. And I rang him, and I had a few little tears, and I said, "Oh, Ted," I said, "Oh, I really wanted to finish in the daylight." And he's like, "Love, you've got this, just keep doing it. You've only got an hour to go. You're strong. You can do this." And and support is a huge thing, and it got me through. So I think your friends and your family and your loved ones, your support around you is very valuable as well.
Sounds like we all need a little Ted whispering nice things in our ears when we feel like we need it.
We do. And then other thing I do is I go, "Come on, you can do this. Come on." I step into that kind of mode as well. Slap your leg. Come on, keep going. Stop being lazy. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. I'd love to talk a little bit more about the Tongariro crossing, if that's okay with you.
Yep, sounds
awesome. I know that some of the ladies that will be listening to this will be super keen just to hear about if they might have it on their bucket list, and they're keen to do it and things like that. I'd love to maybe just impart some information about the trip on to them, so that they can have confidence to do it. I know that you can definitely go, and people can go and safely do it by themselves.
Yes.
We have always, when I used to run it with Adventure Girls, we always used a guide, just simply because we had a group and we just wanted to make sure that everyone was safe. And like I said, every time we've done it, the weather's never been the same. The first time we had blue skies, and if you ever wanted to describe the Tongariro crossing, and it's most perfect bluebird day, that's the day we had. And then on one of I think about the third or fourth trip, it got to a point where we just made it over the top because the winds were just safe enough to do the crossing with our guide. And we had to eat our lunch under an emergency shelter because it was just absolutely crazy. And someone not from our group had to get helicoptered off. So
Yeah.
I know that place is beautiful and underestimated on a large number of occasions. So I would, if you've got words of advice about the trail and what people can expect doing it, it would be super amazing to share, if that's okay with you, to share some of
Definitely.
your wisdom for your thousands of crossings.
So there's a lot of diversity, even just from like the landscape point of view as well, and with flora and fauna. Because we end up in a beautiful rainforest right at the finish, which is lovely, and it's nice and sheltered there. But majority of the hike, you're very exposed. So most of our wind direction is actually a westerly wind. So it usually comes from Taranaki, and as you're walking up the Mt Ruapehu Valley, the wind literally will be blowing behind you, which is usually quite a strong wind. But what happens is when you're going up onto the ridge up to Red Crater, when it is a particularly strong wind, and say that westerly wind, you have to be quite mindful because there's quite narrow sections and quite big drops. So be very mindful with that. They have got transport in summer, if you are interested in just doing it with the transport, but they do have a cap. So when I think it's over 65k winds, then you need to go with a guide. For example, the other day I was pretty close about 100k winds. It was very windy. Sorry, Senka, what were you saying?
That's been Oh, that's right. I was just that's a little lag there. I was just saying that's a more recent signage that went up. Well, by recent, I mean within the last 5 years or something like that. They put some signage up which they never used to have.
Yes.
Like it's not recommended to do the walk today. Like we definitely would suggest you do not continue to do this track by yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And they have a picture as well. So you can have a look at the picture and go, right, is this what the view looks like? Yes. Okay. They're recommending to turn around. They used to have a lovely big sign at the base of the second climb. However, when Cyclone Gabrielle came through, it fell over and they haven't replaced it yet. So at the moment, it's just lying on the ground. Yeah. So, but there are good signs as well, and in the toilets as well. It's very so you can go, okay, this is where we are. We've done the warm up. This is the easy part. It's going to get harder now. There is a really good technique to get down the scree. So when you're at the top and you're coming down the Red Crater, a really great technique is to lift up your toes and dig your heels in and just fully relax. So imagine you're in a sand dune or in the snow. So lift your toes up, dig your heels in, and walk into that thicker scree, and then you'll get down without having a slip. And it's a great technique which I always tell my clients as well to help them out to come down. But it's very changeable. Always, even in summer, always carry a beanie. Always carry gloves. Waterproof. Waterproof clothing.
It's so much fun, that section coming down that tree.
Yeah, it's good fun. So you can get snow in the summer. So it's very important to make sure, you always have warm layers. And it can also get extremely hot as well. So in the summer, I recommend 3 liters of water. Yeah. And in the winter, you don't really drink that much in the winter
because there's nowhere to fill up on the trail, is there?
No, it's all very toxic, the water. So you can't drink the water on the track. There is a couple places, if you were to do the Northern Circuit, that is okay to drink, but not on the Tongariro Alpine Crossing. Yeah.
Do not drink the water, ladies.
Do not drink the water. And they used to have water at the start, but now they've removed those taps. So
no-go
bring the
team.
water, be prepared. Yeah.
Hard pass.
Yeah. Take lots of food as well. I always think, what happens if you got stuck up there, you know? You want to have lots of food, extra food, extra water, warm clothing.
Yeah, that's great.
And give intentions. Even if you're, say, going with a shuttle or you're going with friends, always give your intentions to someone. And then, you know, once you get off safely, tell them.
Definitely, I would recommend for people to take.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there has been people who haven't done that. And then, you know, search and rescue will do a big, and it's just someone hasn't used their common sense. So
yeah.
So let your family
I don't think you can not pack enough stuff on that trail.
Yeah, I always find I love boiled eggs. That's my go-to. They're great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also something salty, like a little packet of chippies or
Is that?
or banana. It's very good potassium. One thing in the winter, because we do a different route from summer to winter. In the winter, we get up to the top, and then we go. We either walk down the guide ridge, or if there's lots of snow, we'll actually take our crampons off, and we'll do a really fun slide into Central Crater. And then you mission across Central Crater, but you have a bit of a climb up to what we call the Notch, which is this like little V in the mountains. Past Blue Lake, and a lot of people will get cramp there because they've been walking, you know, for half an hour in the flat in the snow, and they have this little bit of elevation of 10 minutes, and the amount of people it's terrible. They'll get cramp. So to stop the cramp, I actually have these little natural pills that you can get from the pharmacy, and you can even get a spray, and it's called Cramp Stop, and you just swallow the pills, chew them, or just go with the spray, and your cramp disappears. It works. It's amazing.
One more question before we finish up this awesome conversation. What's one message that you have for women out there who want to have more fun and adventure in their lives?
Oh, good question. So do it. Go out and do it, okay? I know that life can be very busy, and often we've got work, or it can be quite overwhelming to try to plan a trip or even to plan little missions. It's really important to experience life and to live life. Because what will happen is a year will go past, and then you'll be like, oh my goodness, what did I do in the year? So you don't have to do anything, you know, massive adventures if you don't want to. It could just be a little adventure, but try to do something every week that you love and you enjoy. What I try to do every day is something that I enjoy. It could be going for a bike ride after work. It could be yoga. It could be reading a book. It could be, and then on the weekend you might want to do a bushwalk. But what's important is, you know, we live once. Enjoy your life, and and connect with your friends. Facebook's great. There's lots of groups out there and people that are keen to adventure with you as well. You don't have to go solo if you don't want to. But yeah, I think that's the main thing, is actually start putting the plans into action. Don't just have them as, when I retire, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. Because, you know, live life now. That's what is important. And not to worry about, like, you know, it's important to be present. If we live in the past, then that's where depression lives. And if we live in the future, that's when anxiety lives. What's important is to live now. So, you know, check in with yourself and you say, am I happy? Am I healthy? What can I do? I'll go for a half-hour bushwalk, or go to the park, or just doing something that will fill your happy tank, because life's short. And there's no age limit. My goal is when I'm 70, I'm going to get a free season pass and go skiing when I'm 70. Okay? And I have some long-term goals. Like one of our long-term goals is when I'm 36. No, am I 36? Yeah, no, 30. Yeah, 36 turning 37.
Oh,
golly. Gosh, I was thinking, am I 37 yet? No, 36. But when I turn 65, we're going to do the St. James Way, the, what's that hike in Spain? The Compostela pilgrimage. And that's what we're going to do. It's a month hike. And, that's our goal. And so you wanting to stay fit and you want to stay healthy. And it's a long-term goal, but hey.
Oh, the St. James Walkway.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And then we're going to go on a cruise. That's our plan. Yep. So don't let age phase you.
Oh, so many pearls of wisdom in there. Amazing having you on here. I feel really grateful to be following along on your journeys of the cool things you're up to.
Thank you for having me on.
It's a privilege to watch your journey and the cool things that you get up to. I always feel inspired watching the things that you get up to.
Aww. Well, you can always come on any of the missions I'm on. I'm always keen, for a buddy.
So thanks for joining us on the podcast. And here's to getting more women out doing cool stuff. Thanks for listening to the She Adventures New Zealand podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be super stoked if you'd help me get this message out and connected to as many listeners as possible by sharing it on your socials and tagging She Adventures NZ. And of course, to make sure you know when the next exciting episode arrives, be sure to subscribe and you'll be notified as soon as it drops. Till then, remember, get outdoors, fill your happy tank, and do the things that matter, because life is better when you do.